20 games, 40 teams, 20 chances to etch your name in history. This is the Texas high school football semifinals. These are the picks. Welcome into the picks, your guide to Texas high school football weekend. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and txhsfb.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and here we are on the cusp of the 2018 Texas high school football state championship games to be played at AT&T Stadium. Congratulations are in order to 4 teams who have already clinched their spot at the big dance. Follett, Strawn, McLean, and Milford will play in the 6-man state championship games next Wednesday at AT&T Stadium. We can't wait to see them. It's going to be very exciting. But we have 20 more tickets to punch to AT&T Stadium this week in the state semifinals, and in many ways this is the cruelest round of the playoffs, because if you win this game, you're playing for a title, and even if you lose there, you're remembered forever. But if you lose here in the state semifinals, in a lot of ways, you're a footnote. That's why this is the cruelest round of the Texas high school football playoffs. We will go through all 20 state semifinal games in this video. We will start from the smallest classification all the way up to the biggest. So let's start in Georgetown. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Georgetown ISD Stadium. It is a 2A Division II state semifinal between the Mart Panthers and the Fall City Beavers, and a number of individual playmakers to keep your eye on in this one. For Fall City, it's quarterback Keyshawn Johnson, who has been outrageous all year long, a finalist for the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award, and he has all the capability to put on the cape and win this game single-handedly for the Beavers. I do have some concerns, though, about the Fall City defense. They had a little bit of trouble last week containing the speed of Burton, and Mart has plenty of speed to burn. Tyrick Horn, Shatydrick Bailey, they can get out and run. Just ask Munster, who was on the receiving end of a butt-kicking last week in a regional final. Mart is playing very well, but we don't know what the status of their quarterback, Kyler Martin, is. He missed last week's game against Munster with an injury. We don't know what he's going to do this week. Will he be available? But really, will it matter? The way that Mart is rolling right now, I'm not sure anybody can stop them, especially their defense has been sensational. I think Mart marches to another state championship game. 6 o'clock Thursday at Sherwood Memorial Stadium in Plainview. It's the other 2A Division II state semifinal between the Groover Greyhounds and the Albany Lions. And what can you say about Albany that hasn't already been said? The Lions started the year 0-5 and have now rattled off 9 consecutive wins, thanks in large part to what has been an emerging balanced offense. Quarterback Ben West has been excellent, and their running back Cutter Edgar is a dominant runner when he gets a little bit of space. For Groover, I mean, this team has kind of somehow flown under the radar despite being 13-1. I mean, this team is really, really good, especially offensively. Keegan Kelp, their quarterback, has been really solid this year, and their defense is allowing just 15 points per game. Something's got to give here, and this is one of the toughest games in the state to call. For now, though, I think I ride the hot hand. I'm going to go with Albany to make it all the way, believe it or not, to AT&T Stadium. 7:30 p.m. Thursday night at Waco ISD Stadium. It's a 2A Division I state semifinal between the San Augustine Wolves and the Mason Punchers. And if you're an old school football, do I have a treat for you. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch if you're into that kind of grinding running game, because both these teams have it. For San Augustine, it's quarterback TJ Thomas, and it's Delmarquise Barnes and Kelvorian Barnes, both of whom are over 1,000 yards. TJ Thomas over 2,000 yards on the year. They're going to grind it out on the ground. You know, Mason really impressed me last week with their win over Refugio. That's a team that had really had their number, but even with losing quarterback Otto Wofford to ejection early in the year, they found a way to get through it. Their running game with Clay Klerner is really starting to grind. This should be a really tight game that ends up coming down to who can come up with stops. In that case, I think that the advantage goes to Mason and linebacker Jake Cockerham. I think they come up with enough stops to get the Punchers to AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Friday night at Shotwell Stadium in Abilene. It's a 2A Division I state semifinal between the New Deal Lions and the San Saba Armadillos, a battle of unbeatens, and 2 teams that really haven't been challenged for the most part all year long. You know, New Deal is really riding a hot hand right now. Quarterback Jet Whitfield is on another level, and they have a receiver in DK Blaylock who is a mismatch as soon as he walks on the field. Not to mention their defense is playing really well as well. You know, on the other side, San Saba is such a great story. 3-7 a year ago, 0-10 2 years ago. What Jared Fekoch has done with the Armadillos has been impressive, and Sean O'Keefe and Eli Salinas are the real deal for this Armadillos team. What happens when both of these teams take a punch much as there are here. You know, Cruelest gave San Saba a really tough run earlier this year. New Deal has not really been challenged. What happens when the Lions get socked in the mouth? Because the Armadillos are certainly going to do this. In the end, though, I think New Deal is the real deal, and I think the Lions are heading for AT&T Stadium. Give me New Deal. 7 o'clock Friday night at Texan Drive Stadium in Porter. It is a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Newton Eagles and the East Bernard Brahmas, and I do think that this Brahmas team provides a unique challenge to Newton. They run the slot T, and they run it particularly well. Running back Kobe Brown and their quarterback Hunter Goudeau have been really solid for this Brahmas team, and their defense has really kind of reaped the benefits of that offense, keeping them fresh. Linebacker Peyton Peliquin has been excellent for this Brahmas team. But Newton is a pack of dogs with bees in their mouth, and when they bark, they shoot bees at you. They are the most dominant team in Texas high school football this year. Everywhere you look, they've got playmakers, whether it's Josh Foster, Tamaja Brown, or it's Darwin Barlow, or it's their linebacker Jadrian McGraw. I'm just not sure anybody's standing in the way of Newton right now. As good as East Bernard is, I think Newton marches back to AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Friday night at Vernon's Lions Stadium is a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Canadian Wildcats and the Gunter Tigers. And if it feels like you've seen this movie before, it's because you have. This is the third consecutive year that these two teams meet in the state semifinals, with Gunter taking the previous two iterations of the contest. And with two teams that have such an ingrained identity, it can kind of feel like this is the same game being played over and over. You know, Canadian wants to get out and throw the ball a little bit. Quarterback Cason Cavalier has been sensational. His wide receiver Garrison McCook has been the guy on the other end of his passes more often than not. And I also think that this Canadian defense has taken a step forward. You know, Jack Ketting has stepped up for this Wildcats defense. For Gunter on the other side, you know what they want to do. They want to run that option offense. They want to get the ball to their do-it-all athlete Dylan Jans, who's basically never going to leave the field. I also think that this is a Gunter team that can throw the ball a little bit. Ethan Everson has been a very solid quarterback. Remember that they won the state 7-on-7 tournament in the offseason, and their defense is as good as always, led by linebacker Steele Cup. These are two coaching staffs that know each other very well. I want to see how Gunter handles the pace of Canadian. They get up and they snap the ball very, very quickly, which could be trouble for Gunter. In the end, though, I do wonder if Gunter just has a mental edge in this game, if they just have Canadian's number. I'm a believer in that. I think Gunter goes back to the state championship game. 7 o'clock Friday night at the field in Pflugerville. It is a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Grandview Zebras and the Yoakum Bulldogs. And what I really like about the state semifinals is that you start to see these styles of different regions clash here, and that's the case here. 3A Division I Region 3, which is where Grandview is coming out of, tends to be a little bit more wide open. They like to get out and run, and that is the case in this Grandview team. The Zebras have quarterback Dane Jench and a running back in Eli Golden, both of which have been fantastic. They want to get out there and turn this game into a bit of a track meet. They might have a little bit of the speed advantage here. And Coach Brad Davis has done just a sensational job with the Zebras. You know, on the other side, Yoakum is a team that it seems like death taxes and Bo Robinson getting his team this deep in the playoffs. The Bulldogs have been spectacular, and they're a much more physical team. I think this is a team they want to hit the Zebras in the mouth. I think that's going to be the name of the game. Who can dictate the pace? Not to mention, they can throw the ball a little bit. Hagen Garvin has really stepped up at the quarterback spot for Yoakum. This is one of the toughest games to call, I think, because the styles clash is so distinct. But for now, I think I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to go with Grandview to get to the state championship game. 4 o'clock Friday at the Ford Center in Frisco. It is a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Brock Eagles and the Malakoff Tigers, and this is strength versus speed here. Brock is going to be the bigger, more physical team here and will have the advantage in the trenches, which could make for a big game for running back Zach Young, who was spectacular in their come-from-behind win last week over Shallowater. On the other side, Malakoff is undoubtedly the faster team here, and they are getting healthier, which is very scary. RJ Carr, who suffered an injury in September, is just now back, and he looked no worse for the wear in Malakoff's big win over Atlanta last week, running for 180 yards on just 10 carries. Not to mention Kiwi Rose is back as well for this Malakoff team. I think this game could come down to defense, but in the end, on a fast track in Frisco, I do think the team with the better speed may have the advantage. I think Malakoff's getting healthier, and I think they're starting to feel it. I think Malakoff gets to the state championship game. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Legacy Stadium in Katy. It is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Cuero Gobblers and the Silsbee Tigers. And what's most interesting about this game is that I think finally Cuero might have met their match from a speed perspective. Cuero has basically been faster than every team they've played this year, and when you look at their roster with Jordan Whittington, Kearon Grant, you can see why. They've got bona fide burners all over the field. Well, Silsbee might be just as fast. Darshawn Turk, their outstanding wide receiver, is a game breaker, and they're going to want to get him the ball out in space. Not to mention their defense is really peaking. That win last week over West Orange Stark in a driving rainstorm was really impressive, and I think served notice to the entire state that the Tigers are for real. This game is going to be very close, and I think it could be very fun. A couple of home runs hitting this one, but in the end, I think Cuero's on a mission. I think this team looks across the field and they see a team other than West Orange Stark and they say, this is our moment. I think Cuero marches on to the AT&T Stadium. 8 o'clock Friday at the Ford Center in Frisco, it is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Iowa Park Hawks and the Pleasant Grove Hawks. One of these Hawks we expected to be here. The other, what? What are you doing here, Iowa Park? Aubrey Sims has pulled a rabbit out of his hat, and this team is really feeling good after their big come-from-behind win last week over Glen Rose. And I got to tell you, Trent Green, their quarterback, is playing at another level right now, and I think he could be a difference maker in this game. Well, now they get a shot at the defending 4A Division II state champion in Pleasant Grove, and we probably haven't talked enough about what a great job Josh Gibson, the coach at Pleasant Grove, has done this year. This is a team that got absolutely decimated by graduation last year, and they've just kept on trucking. Running back Bruce Garrett has been exceptional, and that defense has come up with the key stops when they need it. Not to mention, they can throw the ball a little bit. Quarterback Ben Harmon is starting to hit his stride. Iowa Park has absolutely earned their way here, and I think they got a great shot if their quarterback Trent Green can have a big game. But for now, I do think the defending champs defend their crown at AT&T Stadium. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium in Cyprus. It's a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Carthage Bulldogs and the Liberty Hill Panthers, and we finally get this game that we've kind of had circled for quite a while. Carthage at this point needs no introduction. They are winners of 2 consecutive state championships. They have won 40 games in a row, the longest winning streak in the state. Scott Surratt has established himself as one of the very best coaches in the state at any level, and they've got weapons all over the place. Gunter Capps, their quarterback, has been great. Kelvonte Dixon, their wide receiver, not to mention that defense is really starting to flex. That win last week over Henderson was really impressive. Well, here comes Liberty Hill. And Liberty Hill runs the slot T, and they run it like maybe we've never seen before. This is a super explosive offense for a team that tends to pride itself on ground and pound. Running back Kyle Harrison has been exceptional all year long, and that defense has been a strength all year long as well. Last week against Lavernia, Liberty Hill put the ball on the ground 4 times. If they do that again, they will absolutely lose this game. I have no doubt about it. They have to play a clean game. But I have been on the Liberty Hill bandwagon all year long, and as crazy as it is to pick against a 40-game winning streak, I would be a coward if I hopped off the Liberty Hill bandwagon at the moment of truth. I think Liberty Hill goes to AT&T Stadium in the 4A Division I state championship game. 4 o'clock Friday afternoon at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It is a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Waco La Vega Pirates and the Decatur Eagles. And at this point, I think you got to consider La Vega to be a bit of a buzzsaw. What they did last week to Argyle was really impressive. They are big, they are physical, they are mean, and they have playmakers. Running back John Richards has been spectacular, and their quarterback Era Rawls I don't think gets enough credit as well. Well, here comes Decatur, a team that finished 4-6 in the regular season and is here in a state semifinal. What can you say about the job that Coach Mike Fuller has done? And remember, this is a team we kind of had buried. They lost their quarterback, Wilson Hicks, before the season started because he wanted to focus on baseball. But Roman Fuller has stepped up in a big way, and they are getting playmakers all over the field. This is a game that I think if Decatur comes out there and lands the first punch, they can maybe stun La Vega. But make no mistake, the Pirates have to be considered the favorite in this one, and I think Waco La Vega goes to AT&T Stadium again next week to play for a state title. 7:30 p.m. Friday night at Ferris Stadium in San Antonio. It is a 5A Division II state semifinal between the Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes and the Corpus Christi Calallen Wildcats. And I don't think you could draw up 2 more different teams if you tried. Fort Bend Marshall, of course, has playmakers all over the field, whether it's quarterback Malik Hornsby, whether it's running back Devon Chain, whether it's that outstanding defense. They have got dudes all over the field. And that come-from-behind win last week over Huntsville is really impressive. Of course, we do have to wonder what is going to be their mindset after the tragedy that hit the Buffaloes family this week. We wonder where their head is going to be at. On the other side, you have Corpus Christi Calallen, led by the winningest coach in Texas high school football history, Phil Danaher, who is still searching for his first state championship. And this is a team that's gonna do what they do. They're gonna grind it out on the ground in that wing T. A.J. Brown, their running back, has been really solid all year long, and they want to play great defense. So what happens when these styles clash? In the end, I do think that Phil Danaher is going to dial something up special, but I think Fort Bend Marshall is just the faster team, and that's the difference. I think Fort Bend Marshall wins this one and moves on to the 5A Division II state championship game. 8 o'clock Friday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It's a 5A Division II state semifinal between the Wichita Falls Rider Raiders and the Aledo Bearcats, and what a ride it's been for the Raiders. Wichita Falls Rider is a team that did not start the year very well, and yet Mark Bendel has this team peaking at the right time, thanks in large part to the sophomore quarterback, Jacob Rodriguez. He has been out of this world, and he's going to need to put on the cape this week if they're going to take down Aledo. Of course, Aledo is another team that basically needs no introduction. Running back Jason McClellan has been fantastic, but the real strength of this team, I think, is in their offensive line. They are big, they are bruising, and they are physical. I think that is the difference. I think they win the game in the trenches and the defense does enough. I think Aledo moves on to yet another state championship game. 6 o'clock Saturday night at NRG Stadium in Houston. It is a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Alvin Shadow Creek Sharks and the San Antonio Wagner Thunderbirds. And if you're unfamiliar with Wagner, coming out of Region 4, you should probably familiarize yourself right now because this team's a lot of fun. They are big, they are physical, and they run the ball really, really well out of the flex bone. They are going to be a unique challenge for the Shadow Creek defense. They got a couple of playmakers in LJ Butler and Carlton Black that I think are going to be able to grind it out on the ground, keep the ball away from this explosive Shadow Creek team. For Shadow Creek, the dream season continues. The inaugural varsity season for Coach Brad Butler and the Sharks has been absolutely sensational, and a lot of it has to do with their quarterback, Jamarian George. This little water buck quarterback is doing big, big things, and I think he's got one more big game in him. I think, unbelievably, the first-year varsity program, Alvin Shadow Creek Sharks, move on to the state championship game. Noon Saturday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, it's a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Highland Park Scots and the Denton Ryan Raiders. For the third time, these two teams tee it up, and Highland Park has simply had Denton Ryan's number. And, you know, this is a different Denton Ryan team. This is not the team with the big explosive offense. They have a really interesting offense. I think Ian Hinnigan, their quarterback, has been very solid. Billy Bowman, their wide receiver as well, not to mention Drew Sanders. But for me, the strength of this Ryan team is defense, and especially their defense up front. They have not allowed a point in their last 10 quarters. That's really hard to do in the playoffs. Well, here comes Highland Park, and Highland Park pulled off a miracle last week to get by John Tyler in the fourth quarter. Chandler Morris, their quarterback, has been absolutely outrageous, and you know that this team believes that they are going to win every game that they step on the field. On paper, I think Denton Ryan's a better team. I don't feel bad saying it bad. I think that they are the better team, but I do think that Highland Park just has their number. I think the Scots find a way again. I think Highland Park defends their crown at AT&T Stadium next week. 4 o'clock Saturday at Legacy Stadium in Katy, it's a 6A Division II state semifinal between the Beaumont Westbrook Bruins and the Austin Westlake Chaparrals, or what's left of them. Austin Westlake has been absolutely decimated by injuries this year, especially late. They've lost their starting quarterback, Taylor Anderson. They've lost their top 2 running backs. They've lost their center. Offensively, this is a shell of their former self, and yet the defense has stepped up in a huge, huge way. Last week, that was a virtuoso performance last week against Brandeis. I can't believe that they ended up shutting them out and just suffocating that Broncos team the way that they did. Well, now comes an interesting test from Beaumont Westbrook with superstar quarterback LaRavian Elia, who has absolutely put the team on their back. He has been outstanding, and their running back Robert McGrew has been outstanding, although his status is a little bit in doubt. He was nicked up last week in their regional final win. So this is strength on strength here. You've got the Beaumont Westbrook offense against this absolutely lights out Westlake defense. That's going to be fun to watch, but what happens on the other side? What happens when Beaumont Westbrook's defense, which has been pretty good, goes up against Westlake's offense, which we don't really know what we're getting from them? It's going to be a fascinating matchup to watch. In the end, I think pedigree does play a factor in this one, and I think Westlake finds a way to pull out a victory. 8 o'clock Saturday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, it is a 6A Division II state semifinal between the Amarillo-Tascosa Rebels and the Longview Lobos, and what a story Tascosa has been. The pride of the Panhandle has absolutely earned their way here. They are certainly semifinal worthy. They are certainly a team to keep an eye on in this game because of their offense. Their flexbone offense is starting to hum. Running back King Doru we knew about, but their quarterback Joseph Plunk has hit another level in the playoffs. Now they go up against Longview, who was the preseason favorite to win 6A Division II, and they have looked the part. They got a scare last week against Westfield, but their defense really stepped up in a big way, and you know all about their weapons offensively. Quarterback Haynes King has been fantastic, and this outstanding running game led by Keelan Williams is going to be very hard to stop. The question here is, can Tascosa slow down Longview? That is going to be the big matchup here. For now, I know that Longview doesn't have the greatest history of getting to state championship games when they have the opportunity, like last week, but I think this is a time for redemption. I think Longview advances to the state title game. 2 o'clock Saturday at NRG Stadium in Houston, it is a 6A Division I state semifinal between the Galena Park North Shore Mustangs and the Lake Travis Cavaliers. And if you like Blue Bloods going at it, here you go, 2 Blue Bloods who are going to square off for a spot at AT&T Stadium. You know, Lake Travis is really, really impressive. A team that their offense has really started to reload. Quarterback Hudson Card, I think, is playing his best football right now. And Garrett Wilson looks fully healthy. And boy, just ask Converse Judson if he's feeling well, because he put on a show last week in their win over Judson. On the other side, North Shore has looked the part of a 6A title contender all year long, and they look like they're playing at a different level right now. Zachary Evans, their running back, and Demetrius Davis lead this offense, and the defense is starting to make plays. You saw it 2 weeks ago against Katy, and you saw it last week against Cy-Fair. What happens when these two teams square off? I think the biggest question here is, what does North Shore do to counteract the outstanding individual playmaker in Garrett Wilson? I think he's going to be the best player on the field in this game. Can they contain him? And on the other side, can Lake Travis find a couple of stops against this high-powered North Shore team? This is going to be close, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch into the fourth quarter. But I like North Shore to advance to the state championship game. 4 o'clock Saturday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It is a 6A Division I state semifinal between the Duncanville Panthers and the Allen Eagles. What more do you want from this? This is one of the great games that we're going to see in Texas high school football this year. Two teams that won their regional final games 51-7. You know, Allen scuffled a little bit in the first half, but boy, did they put the pedal to the metal in the second half against you at Midway last week. Quarterback Grant Tisdale and receiver Theo Weiss have been spectacular, and I also think that this defense, for the most part this year, has been very solid. Speaking of defense, Duncanville's defense is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. They completely overwhelmed and overmatched South Lake Carroll last week. They have playmakers all over the field defensively, and they have a quarterback who can put on the cape in Jaquindon Jackson. This is going to be the biggest test for Allen all year long, make no mistake, and I think this game could come down to the wire. But in the end, I think that pedigree matters, and Allen has a knack for coming up big in the big moment. This is the big moment, and I think Allen comes up big once again. Give me the Eagles to go back to AT&T Stadium and defend their crown. And those are the picks. Those are the 20 Texas high school football state semifinal games this weekend, and we are really excited about all of them at txhsfb.com. So why don't you let me know, what am I wrong about? Please be kind in the comments. Let me know down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/DaveCampbells. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/DaveCampbells. And of course, see us at txhsfb.com, where you can find complete coverage of the 2018 Texas High School Football State Championship games at txhsfb.com starting Monday morning. Make sure you bookmark it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the state semifinals of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. We'll see you.